Today is the Maurice Sendak artist study stream. And I have 10 pictures here. You can see them in the slideshow over there. Some of them are the black and white version and the color version. One of them I put together actually because it's interesting to look at like that. Let me see. I can move it forward a little faster. Oh, yeah, these two I have stacked up here as well. It's interesting to see. I don't know why the top one is cropped differently. That's just the picture I found. And this was redeemed by Emma. And so let Emma kind of decide where we start. If you have a preference, Emma, for which one we look at first, do let me know. These are interesting. As with the other artist studies, this is an artist I never would have thought to study. My knowledge of Sendak is very limited. Actually, I don't think I even read any of his children's books growing up. I'm not even sure if I read Where the Wild Things Are or not. That would be the one, but I'm not 100%. So this is great for me because this is an omission in my art education that I'm happy to patch up. So let me write something first. Artist study. And so as with the other artist studies, I looked very quickly at these pictures. I didn't look too deep at them. I just wanted to look close enough to get an idea of how I want to start, but that's how I proceed will be informed completely by this stuff. Bam Bam Bambi Brown, thank you for the follow and welcome. Just in time for a very big day. So as with all of the artist studies, of course, composition. That seems to be a theme with all of them so far. And this is the fourth artist study, by the way, that we've done here. There was the Dr. Seuss After Dark, and then Norman Rockwell, and then Alphonse Mucha. And now here we are. I want to look at composition. I want to look at his ink work. We'll see what else kind of pops up as important. No preference, Emma. All right. Made a bottle of water, grabbed my laptop off the charger, ready to go. All right. Great. Myself some water too. My coffee, sadly, has all been drunk. Should have made two. I say it every stream. I think I want to start with this one. Let's start with this one. One thing I noticed when I first sort of started collecting these images was it reminds me kind of, at least some of his work reminds me of Edward Gorey. I don't know, Emma and chat, if you're familiar with this artist. I don't know when this was made. I want to say late 1800s. This is like this is the alphabet of death. Horrifying. So he goes through like the ABCs, but each letter is like a different way of horrible death. So what does this say? The C is for Clara, who wasted away. Very troubling. But something about his art style, there's kind of, at least in his black and white drawings, there's a little bit of an unsettling nature to them. And it reminds me of this work. A is for Amy who fell down the stairs. It was a simpler time, wasn't it? Just some light entertainment. Maybe a cautionary tale. Anyway, Edward Gorey, I don't even know if Gorey is his real name, because that's a great horror name. But anyway, That's who I was thinking of for some of these drawings, especially this one here. So first things first. Oh no, already fumbling my pen. Is it gonna be one of those days? First things first, we have this like very sparse line over here, the windowsill. And the moon. And then contrast it with very, very high key. Super hatched out dark shape for the bed and stuff. And I'm interested to do a more zoomed in study of this in a second. This is just for the composition. Interested in the buildup of value. Figure here, and of course we get the highest contrast where our focal point is, which would be the face of the child here. But then it's interesting, I hadn't thought about this, how he's using so I would say, if we're going back to the Muka kind of a way, I would say there's two focal points here. There's some text up here as well, but I think the text is just, you start the page up here and you read that. I'm not sure really kind of drawing the eye there necessarily. It says number 7, you always want what you think you want. That's interesting. Go back to that in a second too. But the point I'm trying to make, I guess, before I interrupted me so rudely, is the main focal point is here. We have the highest contrast, but then the second focal point has to be this window where the lowest contrast is. So that's interesting too. And he's using that contrast, or contrast between the high contrast and the low contrast. So that's interesting. So let's see, we have focal point 1, we have high contrast or high key. Focal point 2, we have low contrast, low key. So I like that right off the bat. That's something I don't know see that very often. The more we do these artist studies, the more I'm convinced that like contrast is hugely important, and there's a million different ways of achieving contrast. That's one of them. This is contrast between contrasts. That's very interesting. It says, you always want what you think you want. So I guess we have the kid sitting in bed, looking out the window, I don't know, wishing. That's what little kids do, right? I think it did that. Wishing or thinking about the future. And actually, so one of the downsides, I guess, to not looking too closely at these is now I wish I had numbers 1 through 6. I assume there's a 1 through 6 because this is number 7. Always want what you think you want. Also, let's think about the handwriting. Handwriting looks like, I don't know, a 4th grader maybe? When do you learn cursive? You learn cursive in 3rd or 4th grade, I think. At least back then we did. I don't even know if kids even learn how to write these days with their flip phones and their MTV. 3rd grade. So the handwriting matches probably the age of the kid here, right? Or maybe he's a grade or 2 older than the kid. So that's interesting. Also interesting is that aside from, I mean, the bed and the window imply a ground plane and a wall plane, but it's more like it's kind of in a void. Everything else is stripped away, and even that window looks like it might be a little bit closer than the wall, unless the bed is right up against it. The window is pretty big, so this is like the void of the imagination or something like that. Maybe imaginary plane. So that's a really effective way of transporting us to this kind of moment. I should also remind everybody, as with the previous artist studies, if any of you have anything to add to my ramblings, please do. Unfortunately, this reproduction is a little bit pixely, but I'm gonna try to see if I can't do a little study of his ink work. Any little hand here. I didn't notice that before. Such a mood in this picture. So interesting, what's the opposite of a headboard? Is it a footboard? Bed frame, whatever this part is. This bit here. Just like he's looking just over it. Which is a kind of, to me at least, is a visual reinforcement of the sort of young age kid. Kind of let's see, you always want what you think you want, kind of looking over this, beyond it, to the horizon, future. I think mood for him is really important. Put that down here. All right, so I'm looking here at how he's building up his values. Hatching, especially on the bed. But it looks like even in this figure, there's some little white shapes showing through. So it seems like that would be from building it up from hatching, rather than taking a brush, filling it in. And again, this kind of low resolution image, so it's a little bit tricky to see exactly how he's doing it, but something about these Sendak, some of these Sendak pictures really reminds me of Gory. I don't know if it's just because it's black and white hatching. There's a quality, there's a mood that Sendak gets that I think Gory also gets. I wonder if Sendak was looking at his work. His short line, low-key outlining, hatching, and shading are definitely a family. Yeah, I'm always a fan of hatching, so that's why I chose this one first. And that's also why I'm using this pen for this study. Gory's work is a little starker. Yeah, it is. Move it up earlier. A lot of great texture in both of their work. I love how this figure sort of merges with the bed. See that? These lost edges. Lost edges in ink work is... it always speaks to me. Everything is just... I guess it's all different directions. It looks like... said, it's hard to see from its reproduction. It's a little bit pixelated. It looks like he has kind of maybe a dominant hatch direction and then kind of secondary. It looks like there's a general movement. Yeah, contour cross hatching, but not all of it is contour because it's like all different directions, but hard to dissect. I feel like there's a dominant direction and then there's some subordinate directions. You think he stumbles once he can no longer... Oh, scumbles. He scumbles once he can no longer distinguish line. I think in the dark areas it looks like he's using longer lines. And in the lighter areas, shorter lines, but real tough to say. We have the light source is the window. Okay, that's an interesting point. Let me see this. I hadn't noticed this before. The light source is the window, and we have the light on the face here. Actually didn't finish. We have the light on the face. The light source is coming from here, but then the bed here just black. So that's got to be I mean, that's compositional device. And it's always I don't know, I feel like when I was a younger artist, trying to stay true to light source and stuff was really important. But the more, I don't know, the more mature I get as an artist and the more other artists I look at, they always kind of fudge the light source a little bit for the sake of the storytelling, the sake of the composition. So here on the posts on these two end ones, he's faithful to the light source, but this part in the middle is just black, and I think that's got to do with framing this here. He's got these little triangle bits poking around, so that's interesting too. We have one here poking up. We have this little one poking down. This one here poking down. This triangle here poking out. And in the corner of the pillow has a little one there. Kind of little motif. The pillow has another one over here too. Looks like here the dominant direction of the hatching is this way. And that's what I would do if I was drawing a picture like this, to push the eye up, point at the face. I'm assuming that's what he's doing, but who knows? Anybody have any other notes? Anything you've noticed? Anything to say on this piece before we move on? Looks like my bed is a little flat. That's all right. That's not the point. You do. All right, let's hear it. Bed frame. Yeah. The bed frame, the wheels all lie basically on the same plane. Only a little bit of a difference. It's kind of a wonky perspective. Catty-wample. I was saying earlier too, Crochet, I think probably before you got here, how the space is a void except the bed kind of sitting on a ground plane and the window sitting on a wall plane. But the perspective is a little bit wonky. It's enough so that the space reads, and maybe that's part of it. Like I would assume Sendak is capable of basic perspective, because this is pretty basic. This would be a 1-point perspective, but I'm sure he was sophisticated enough to kind of, if he had to, place these wheels of the bed you know, more accurately. I think a lot of times with children's books too, there's you play with the perspective and it gives it a little bit of a naivete, and it kind of matches the handwriting. Like that window, it looks like the sill, the left part of the sill, I think the perspective looks pretty good, but the right part looks a little off as well. That's got to be intentional, right? I mean, like his moon is not a perfect circle. It's an oval. And that's interesting, actually. I'm just noticing now. It's kind of an oval, and it's shaped this way, and that tilt gives it the tilt of the face of the child here, and the tilt of the axis of the moon is quite nice. They work against one another. Interesting. I hadn't noticed that, but I think that's another compositional device. The bed frame height. Yeah. So we have, that's a good one too. It's high in the back, low in the front. Well, the text, the last word, want, is the third line of text is only one word. It's a short word, and it lines up right above that bed frame. So we read the text and we come down straight from that want down to the top of the bed frame. Then we have that diagonal that goes through the child's head and above here, like I said, he's kind of looking over this, and that diagonal brings us down to the corner of the window here. That axis of the moon bring us back up, and squares coming back this way. We got a big, I wonder if this was intentional. On the window, the squares looking through, we have a big one here, and then they get a little bit smaller as we go that way. And that could be doesn't go to the top. That could be a subtle sort of push, right? You come up through the moon and you go back this way. They shrink just a little bit, pulling you in. Compare mine and his. The windowsill line is the horizon. Alright, yeah, my windowsill here is a little bit high. Here. So the horizon line would be here. That makes sense. I guess that top of that pillow being flat. Shupping now. Shup it up, crochet. It is very effectively used. And having then the figure popping up above that horizon too. So looking over this bed frame, also being above the horizon with the light on the face, that kind of maybe hopeful. You always want what you think you want. That hoping or aspiring or desiring or whatever it is. Wishing, dreaming. I wonder if Sendak grew up reading Little Nemo in Slumberland. And now this is... Anyway, getting sidetracked. Okay, so I've spent looks like 40 minutes on this first one here. So how about we move on? I'm gonna flip through these quickly, and if anybody sees one they want me to look at, please do let me know. You want a color one? Okay. How about we do this one? Alright, so it's a book at least for this overview here, got to look at both pages. I got to look at it as a whole. We have this decorative element over here. Page number and some lines of text. Blah, 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 blah. Now over here, have step of a doorway here. With the wind blowing through. I feel like personification of wind is a 20th century and before thing. I feel like it's an old world. We don't get that as much. Personification of winter, personification of wind. Maybe I'm wrong, but feels kind of old-fashioned. Should bring that back. Got the bowl pretty much in the middle of the page here, framed by this door. Got this coming down and floor. The wind taking his fill. When you personify wind, sometimes you blame it on the dog. That's half of the reason to have a dog, right? Little hand up here. Triangle. I love the body language of this figure. So here's some more interesting perspective going on in this as well. Got these beams here, this bit. Swirlies. Oh, he's throwing his spoon up in the air. Personification of the moon is one of your favorites. Yeah, there's in the New Yorker cover that we'll probably look at later, there's a good moon personified. Disagree, there's untold anthropomorphizing in anime, it's just shifted audience far as I do. Ah, interesting, okay. Lots of kids books my son has that does all the autumn leaves and wind and snow stuff. I think it depends on what style you're going for. Must just I must just not be looking where it's happening. Yellow here. And then this blue. The bowl of soup tipped over is framed by these yellow shapes. It's a blue shape in the middle of the yellow shapes, almost in the center of the page, framed by the door and the table as well. So it's got a frame of lines and a frame of shape, frame of color around it. And then we have the perspective lines pointing down. Our figure in blue. This great expression. Throwing the spoon is yellow too. And the wind here, looking pretty satisfied. Also being very helpful. I mean, I know that the wind knocked the soup over, but it laps it up, it says. Like it's cleaning. So if somebody's gonna bust into your house and knock your soup on the floor, the least they can do is clean it up. So, you know, rude, but also sort of polite. we have on the right side more of a squared edge. And on the left side, we have more of this roundness. This hatch marks here come down, and we come straight down. But then the way that this table is cut off, it's another kind of round shape. We have more perspective lines on the ground here. I don't know if the shape of the text has anything to do, but it's worth at least looking at just to see. Got on the door, interesting texture. It looks like some smudges or something. I don't think that appears. That must be the paper texture. Yeah, that's gotta be. But he's using it with black. I should also mention all of these pictures are in the Discord if anybody wants to take a closer look than what's on screen here. It looks like where there's color, there's some texture going on. Where there's no color, it's just the hatching. But the door looks like the only place where there's color where the texture is created also from black. Really like this figure. Like how his chair is tilted too. That's I hadn't noticed that earlier. There's so much energy packed into this little figure. He really is communicating the emotion really well. Body language. And I guess he must be throwing his spoon in frustration. When I first saw it, my initial thought was maybe he was startled, but I think it's pretty clear. Just frustrated. Not gonna get that soup. Can you arrest the personified wind? Because it seems like Mr. Wind here is breaking multiple laws. There ain't no jelly can hold me. You could keep him in a jar. That's about it. Maybe a fortified windsock. I think jar is the natural enemy of wind. And I think that each pushed the evolution of the other. The wind and jar, as we know them today, millions of years ago were quite different. But the, you know, the evolutionary cat and mouse, predator-prey dynamic. His New Yorker cover. We have a personified moon. Looks like his personified moon is done with perspective. Wrapping around. It's on a spherical form. So this one here on the screen was his study for the finished cover. And this is the finished cover. There's another couple ones. Where are they? This one here, where the difference between his color and black and white is really, it's night and day. These two are very different images, but for his New Yorker one, I feel like there's not a lot of difference color to black and white. The cables on the Brooklyn Bridge appear to be dysfunctional. There's a slight wobbliness to his work that I think is common in children's books. There's like the structure is still structural, but the line There's a wobbliness to the line. You can see it like in the box, like the box with fragile at the middle bottom. That vertical line, there's kind of a wobble to it. And there's that red, looks like one of those posts that like a ship will tie itself to, boat will tie itself to. A little bit of a wobble there, and the bridge cables too. So there's, I feel like that is consistent in a lot of children's books. I wonder why that is. So I'm going to first look at black and white one just to do my thumbnail. Oh, you thought of it as a smokestack? Yeah, maybe. I'm not really sure. To me, it reads like some kind of a mooring thing. I also didn't notice that it looks like the bridge has lights on the right side and the back. It's that hinge-looking thing at the edge on the top, like a stovepipe kind of thing. Wobbly lines might be more relatable to children. Yeah, I think like for lack of a better term, maybe a naive line. Not that his lines are naive, but a naive looking line maybe be something that children can relate to more. Yeah, I think that's right, Pinecone. And yeah, Plumsink, that might be stovepipe. That it would make more sense if it was a stovepipe. He has this strip down the left. This was maybe is sort of a common part of magazines. I feel like Mad Magazine often had, maybe a lot of the old EC comics had a strip down the left side, maybe where the binding is. And again, the circle of the moon is, there's an axis to it. And that axis, to me, reads compositionally, trying to direct the eye more in this direction. Also, the gaze of the moon. Put that in. I love how these features feel like they're rounding around the sphere. So he's looking this way. The face of the guy in the middle bucket foreground is great. The one who's sleeping. We have the flag and the stovepipe coming up. Different angles. Of this giant, whatever this is, it looks like a tomato can, but I don't think it is. It just has a, looks like it has a label. But it might be another stovepipe or something. Here. The rats do not look benevolent. They would have bite some more sense. Yeah, that is a sinister looking rat in the bottom left there, for sure. Let's see. We have figure here holding something. I Can Fly By. Is that a children's book? Figure here. We have the evil rat. Bunch of newspapers and stuff. Another rat here. Falling asleep in a box. Got bucket guy. And one person looks pretty content, actually. In the bottom right corner, the one sleeping there. Figure here. Have the bridge with, like, the lights. Cables. Made my moon a little too low, but that's all right. Stars going this way. And so the bridge is black. And it's framing the foreground. So we have three areas of value. Basically, we have the background, sky, which is gray. We have the bridge, which is black. That's the midground. And then the foreground is white or light gray. So everything is kind of grouped. The moon is also white. So the moon reads foreground to me. Like, the moon looks like it's closer to us than the bridge. So it's one of the characters in this thing. The text on the newspapers and stuff is very important, I think, to what's going on here. So at the top one, it says kid elected president. But we have chaos in shelters and real estate, smart living, investing, food relief, then AIDS epidemic. And this figure here, this is called I Can Fly by Ruth Krauss. I'm not familiar with that. I wonder if that's a real book. Oh man, somebody in a Discord I'm in just posted this actually. This art is pretty fantastic. So the figure, it looks like almost the same cover too. The figure in the bottom left is holding this book, which is quite sad. And it's interesting, a children's book illustrator, including a children's book in this encampment. Then we have boxes, and we have one box that says private property, so you can fly. And then, oh yeah, of course, I Love New York at the top. I wonder what the angels on the left have to do with the rest of this. I really like how he's breaking up that foreground, middle ground, background, and using the black for the middle ground to pop this all forward. That's really effective. It looks like the figure here who's holding the kid's book is also holding hands with the guy sleeping in the fragile box. And on the right, it looks like we have maybe a kid? Maybe a couple kids. So, put their clothes up on the line. A scathing look at New York City in 1993. Right. I think that moon is compositional. We have the text New Yorker coming here. The moon, the angle of the moon and the direction these eyes are looking brings us down to that I Love New York flag. This way, this way. That post from the flag comes down. We have all these magazines with the text leading us down to this figure who's holding a children's book and then holding hands with this figure. Come down to this one here and then to these three figures here. That looks to me like the path through here, through this composition. I want to look at this one next. I really like this corner framing thing. So this is an interesting one. At the bottom there, so this has registration marks on it. You see in the bottom and top corners, there's those plus marks. So those look like registration marks And then it looks like there's a line here. So I wonder if that is for text. Whatever words would be in this children's book. So I'm guessing that that white space at the bottom is left for text. I have at the top here this tree. I have not left enough room for the text. This got this rooster or whatever. So I'm gonna try to infer what's going on here. Welcome back, Crochet. He divided the page horizontally in thirds for reference points and composition. Check for focal point. Thirds horizontally. I need to go back. That I left out. Didn't leave enough room. All right, so see, I'm looking at this as divided vertically in thirds. I see we have a character here. We have the poster, and then we have another character here. And if I'm reading storytelling, the rooster not impressed by the bears. What I can only take is a it's either a warning or a threat. So the bear is either saying, "Watch out, there's this creature living here," or the bear is saying, like Scarecrow style, you know, "Don't come around here." If we're looking at horizontal thirds, there's definitely this third left at the bottom for text. Like I said, I assume it's for text. Really beautifully rendered tree here. This must be pencil. I love the texture on the bark. Almost stippling going on. So the bear has this weird long brush. Bucket of paint. The bear's been painting this picture. And I also like in any illustration or comic or whatever, any picture where there's a picture in the picture and the picture in the picture is a different style than the picture. That makes sense. Blending in this image annoys you. You're getting off your own line. I'm a big fan of this picture. There's one of these pictures that disturbs me greatly is this one. Looking at this one makes me super uncomfortable. I guess that's why it's successful. This one looks like it would be in one of those animated Monty Python interstitials. Like, I feel like the baby or the child's head would be like talking all weird, like a South Park Canadian. I find this one much more pleasing to look at. The bear has done this pretty great drawing of this monster. And I guess if I had to put my nickel down on what this story is this bear has seen this monster or thinks there's a monster in the woods, and none of the other animals believe him. So the rooster is being a little bit dismissive, not a very good friend or neighbor. Great how this paper is like curled over on the top. Feels like a kind of a parchment or something. Like no straight edges on this paper. It's been rolled and crinkled a little bit. Shaded area here. A couple of shaded bits here, like darker bits. Down, and then there's these like little holes or whatever. Sort of another frame of the frame, the picture. Darker here. triangle here. This one comes around. Welcome back, Ursa. Love the shoots of grass. Yeah. Yeah, that grass is really nice. Cutting into that tree. And the white on the top, the roots. Here. Tree's mostly gray texture. So I guess we're supposed to go from the bear as 1 to the poster as 2 to the rooster as 3. There's a contrast achieved where everything that's in the reality, the bear, the tree, the rooster, are all nicely rendered, and then the monster, which is just drawn by the bear, is just line. We have render and texture versus line. Looks like the bear is looking up at the monster. The rooster's looking back. Hard to tell from this where the rooster's looking, maybe back at the bear. But the monster is kind of looking right at us, isn't it? Paint bucket contributes wonderfully to contrast interest. Yeah, that's right. The paint bucket has this black shape where the brushes are. And the diagonal of this brush, diagonal of that brush, these two brushes. And it brings you down and up into the picture too, into the drawing. Stick with me here. Is the side of that tree, that's supposed to be a face? Probably not. It's probably just, what is it called? Pareidolia? Where you see faces where there's no face. But it looks like this tree. Looks like there's like a brow here. Eye. A cheekbone. And a nose. And a muzzle. Maybe I've just been looking at these drawings too long and my eyes are getting crossed. Probably what it is. But maybe he snuck in a face in the tree. Am I the only one who sees that? Am I going nuts? You see it now? What do you think, Crochet? Is that real? Or is that a reach? You believe it's an intended shadow monster. Well, well, well. Don't I feel validated? I like the gesture of this rooster. He's got a contrapposto going. The bird has tude. Weight-bearing leg here. One is, he's getting out of there. Got no time for this this bear's crazy conspiracy. Okay. Move on to do one more. Unless anybody else has anything to add to this one here. I think I want to look at this. I don't know why the black and white one is cropped like that. Whatever reason, that's what I got. Can't recall the reason now. Interested in the difference between the black and white and the color one. To me, the black and white one is much moodier, is much more successful as an image. And it might just be my my bias towards black and white. For me, the black and white one is much nicer, much more successful as an image. Although I guess the color one is probably what was used. The black and white one is so clear. That is a wild bed, huh? Look at that bed. Yeah, the perspective bed is interesting, yeah. Does a similar thing from that first one, right? Although much stronger. That angle that Crochet was talking about from the headboard. Figure comes up to just under. If we cut it in half, figure is, the head lies just about on that halfway point. Here. I like the curve of that carpet, the rug. And let's see. Here, got a little table with the window. You like both, but you like the night sky and the color one more? The night sky does look nicer in the color one. But I think for me, I guess going back to the focal points, the contrast of that white moon against that black sky. I like I like the conversation, the juxtaposition, Phantom Pinecone, of that white moon on the black sky with the black hair on that white bed. I think to me that's the thing that does it in the black and white one. Like, the colors are quite nice in and of themselves. I like how they work together, and I like how they interact with the hatching. It can be tough to get cross hatching and color play nice. And he does a really good job of that here. So this post, the bed, lines up directly with the figure here. Got more of this kind of triangle of the pillow, like from the first one. It's gray, white. This plant here in the window is really lovely. Looks like he's got a sandwich, a glass, and maybe that's chicken soup with rice there. Looking at all these artists, I had noticed that that they all stole my trope. Definitely mine. I always like to put something like this door, on one edge of the composition, and having like a strong vertical on the right edge. Like I said, that black sky with that white moon, and then that black hair on that white bed. Is that the only places that aren't hatched are the figure, top of the bed here, and then the moon. Everything else is gray. It's a really nice texture on this rug. And the floor looks like it's not just the rug that's shaped like that. The hatching on the floor brings it kind of this swoop in. And that's more of that kind of little kid perspective, maybe. Kid's book perspective. So, is this from Where the Wild Things Are? I'm not sure where this one is from. His costume looks like it might be. I like the sense. Looks like he has a sense of relief. I guess I can see why the color would be probably what was used, because it's much more calm, more reassuring. The black one looks a little bit looks creepier. Because here the expression on the figure looks like he's kind of relieved, glad to be home maybe. And with the the snacks on the little table here. That would imply that there's somebody who is taking care of him. Somebody who cares enough to prepare a sandwich and some soup. And a glass of what one can only include as milk. I don't know how you could sleep in that bed, though. This kid's got a wild nose. Comes out at a 90-degree angle. Oh, there's whiskers on this costume. I think since he's a child, his bed looks long and short to him from a kid's point of view. Yeah, that could be. I mean, like, it looks tall, right? And maybe, I guess if a little kid is sleeping in a regular bed, right, they would have to really climb. I guess that's why it's called climb into bed. They would really have to climb. Get up in there. Yeah, it was interesting thinking about how things would look from that point of view. It's also funny because we were all children, and yet, you know, I don't really remember how things like that looked. And so it's funny, I find having a kid, it's funny thinking about, especially a young kid, when you're too young to remember what it was like, you know, baby or toddler. Like, this used to be every single person you know, including yourself, and yet it feels like such an alien experience. Very strange. Something that best children's book authors or illustrators do is they stay true to things like physics and anatomy. They make it look, maybe that's what he was doing with the perspective. You can see like this costume here, it comes from behind and it folds up over and it sits on the shoulder. Like there's a weight to this mask, or the cowl, as it pulls down off of the head. It feels solid. It feels like it really, like it's observed. And like the anatomy feels like it's all there. Like it's been simplified from a place of knowledge. I guess that's the mark of the professional, right? Yeah, there's like the little bump here for the ulna. Those fingers are really curving over. A little bit easier to see the direction of the hatch marks on this one than that first one. Well, I guess that's that. Emma, if you're still here, do you have anything to add? It was enjoyable for me looking at Sendak's work. Like I said, another artist that I have not looked at before. And I didn't even really... I would not have thought to look at his work. And... pretty happy. Getting a chance to... take a deep dive.